Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We made it to the start of another week. And I got a simple question to ask in this video, but before we get to all that, I do want to announce that I have made my first big board for the 2024 NFL Draft. It goes 100 deep. I'm just doing 100 players because there's still a lot of work to be done. I don't want to go too deep into a mid-season big board, but I went 100 players deep. And on screen right now, on this Google Doc I have, you can see the top 10. Caleb, Harrison Jr., Olu. It's pretty straightforward. Obviously, the top 10, there isn't going to be a ton of divisiveness. But if you want to see the other 90, I'm going to be posting it on Patreon for people who pledge $10 or more a month. And I'm also going to be posting it for Ring of Honor members here on YouTube in the community section. You just have to become a Ring of Honor member, which is $15 a month. So you do one of those two things, you'll be able to look at it. Again, it's just a rough draft. We're not even halfway through this season, so it's going to change pretty dramatically as the season goes on. But if you want to see where I am right now, I'm going to post the rest of this document on Patreon and the community section for members. So here's the top 10. That's just the free sample. If you want to see the rest, there's where you can view it. All right, so now that that's out of the way, and now that we are almost done with the Seahawks bye week, I thought it would be fun to go back through because we actually watched most of this together in my Red Zone stream, and I want to ask the simple question. Did the Seahawks win the bye week? Did the Seahawks win the bye week? And you guys know every week I go through all the games. I try to come up with a rooting guide, try to figure out what the Seahawks' best interest is, and I talk about it. And as the season goes on, I'll eventually start doing like recap videos, whether or not things went our way. Like if there was one particular week where everything went our way, I'll celebrate all that. I'll say, hey, we got this result, we got that result. And then there are going to be some weeks where nothing goes your way, and you're like, oh man, we can't catch a break all of a sudden. We can't get anything going our way. So we are getting to the part of the season where I might start doing that. But since this was a bye week and there's nothing else to really think about that hard anyway, let's ask the question. Did the Seahawks win the bye week? Obviously, they won it in terms of they had a week to get some of these injured players back because we have quite a few. It was good to be able to get that time off. It was good to be able to get the some of these players an extra week before they come back. But beyond that, so there are three types of games that we're going to look at in this video. There are the games that meant a little bit, there are the games that meant a lot, and there are also the games that meant nothing. And the games that meant nothing are pretty self-explanatory. Games like Ravens, Steelers, they don't really have anything to do with us. There's no real rooting interest there, objectively speaking. You might have a subjective opinion on who you want to win or lose a game, but there are a few games that were played this week that meant nothing. So those games, I'm not really going to speak too much about them. Ravens Steelers is a good example. There were a couple others this week as well. So let's jump ahead to the games of small consequence. Games where there was very little at stake, and I'm not even sure what we really wanted. Panthers Lions. I argued that we wanted the Lions to lose because they're actually the playoff contender, and the Panthers are clearly not. There is an argument to be made for us wanting the Lions in the playoff picture because we beat them, so we own the tiebreaker. But in order for that to matter, we would actually have to have the same record as them. We don't need the Lions to be getting off to some 14-win season where they just blow right past where we can be. So Lions did win. I don't think we were really expecting too much here, but technically speaking, we probably wanted the Panthers to find a way here. Didn't happen. Titans, Colts. This is pure strength of schedule. We're going to play the Titans. So the more games the Titans win, the higher our strength of schedule will be, which can help as a tiebreaker. But that's obviously very small potatoes. And you can see the Titans did not win. So we did not get help there. Another game where there were relatively small stakes would be the Giants and Dolphins. But we did, I know some people disagreed, but we wanted the Giants to lose. We wanted the Giants to lose because they're an NFC team. We didn't need them getting to 2-3 and feeling like, hey, we can get involved in this wild card hunt. Although we do own the tiebreaker on them, so it's not the end of the world. But I would prefer the Giants to just be buried. And at this point, with how bad they look, with how poorly they're playing, they they are pretty much buried. The record says they're buried, and the way they're playing says they're buried. So I think we can go ahead and start crossing off the Giants here, thanks to this loss. Although, even if they had won this game, that's just not a good team. We also had Jets-Broncos, which the only rooting interest, objectively speaking, for the Seahawks would be the third-round pick situation with the Broncos, because we don't play either of these teams this year. But I said this on stream, and I'm going to say it again. It is becoming increasingly obvious that the third-round pick we're going to get is coming from the Saints, because they're clearly better than the Broncos. So even that is losing steam. So honestly, you could argue this game has no stakes, because at this point, the Saints are definitely going to be better than the Broncos. We're definitely getting the Saints' third-round pick. It would take a monumental collapse. Like, the Saints would have to have Carr get injured and Winston get injured, and they're playing their punter at quarterback, and Olave would get injured, and everybody would just have to get hurt. So at this point in time, I don't think there's any really compelling argument for us to even root against the Broncos. But if there is, we got a good result here with the Jets beating them. And we also had the Chiefs beating the Vikings, which pretty much buries the Vikings. They're 1-4. They were arguably already buried, but they're really buried now. They needed to win this game. They needed to win this game. They needed to steal one to make up for some of the stupid games they already lost. Couldn't do it. NFL did no favors to them, of course, but at the end of the day, a loss is a loss. 1-4, you can pretty much cross them off as any kind of a playoff contender, and it starts to narrow the field in the NFC significantly, which is something I'm going to talk about more later this week. So those were the games where the Seahawks had a small stake, and you can see some of them went against us, some of it went for us, and I guess you could say our record in small stakes games is 3-2. Now let's take a look at some of the games where we had big stakes, starting with the Thursday night game, Bears, Commanders. This one's in the books several days now, so I think it's already pretty obvious here, but we love this result. The Commanders were a team that had a chance to maybe get involved in the wild card hunt. They're in a division they're not going to win, but they're not a terrible team, although they looked like one on Thursday. And them eating this loss is big push in the right direction. So the Commanders losing a home game to the Bears by 20 points. I'm not saying you can count them out because they're only 2-3, but that obviously chops their playoff hopes significantly. They've been cut off pretty significantly there. Now, it wasn't all great. We did get this result early Sunday, Falcons-Texans. This is low-key a very important game that did not go our way. A lot of people are going to think, oh, it doesn't matter that much. No, it does. The Texans are giving the Cardinals their first-round pick. We need the Texans to win games. And the Texans, I mean, they're not a great team. When they have an opportunity to take a game, they need to actually cash in on it. And as you can see, it didn't happen. Furthermore, AFC versus NFC, you're almost always going to root for the AFC team because you want the NFC team to be pushed down. The Falcons winning this game could become a problem because a team with that easy of a schedule, the Falcons have a very easy schedule, they don't even have to be that good. And with a 3-2 start, they can get involved in the playoff race and maybe make it. So this is not what we were hoping for, I don't think. I was really hoping Houston, they teased us, they took the 1-point lead with 2 minutes left, looked good, and then their defense just gives it up to Ritter and Bijan, who is really fun to watch, though, I gotta say. Quickly becoming one of my favorite non-Seahawks in the league, but Falcons, they're not going to go away. Their schedule's way too easy. They're going to be involved in the playoff hunt before it's all said and done, just because of their schedule. Speaking of easy schedules, we also had this unenviable result, 34-0 Saints over the Patriots. AFC on NFC, self-explanatory. The Saints also have a very easy schedule. They could definitely make the playoffs, even if they're not as good as they look so far. The Saints look good so far. Even if they fall off significantly, that is still probably a playoff team at this point, or at least a strong playoff contender, just because of their schedule. Now, the Saints will probably win their division, so it might not be something where the Seahawks even get involved, but it's possible. So when you combine that with the fact that we're probably getting the Saints' third round pick this year, them winning was not a desired result, and there were non-trivial stakes involved there. Eagles Rams was a game that meant a lot to us. Some people were actually saying we should root for the Rams because it would push the Eagles down, but to me, there's just no doubt. You want the Rams to get flushed. If we can't catch the Eagles, we can't catch the Eagles. The Rams already have a chance to own the tiebreaker on us because they beat us in week one. I don't need that team lingering around. So we got what we needed here. This was a good result. This was an important result. Again, I understand that the 1 seed is creeping away, but that we might just have to let that one go. The Eagles are really, really good, and it doesn't even feel like they're playing that good this year, and they're 5-0. It feels like the Eagles are going to get much better at some point this season, and they're here. They're 5-0. So I have my doubts that we'll be able to catch them anyway, because based on what we're seeing in another game, they may not even have the competition within the division that we thought they might have. So, yeah, good result here. Need the Rams to go away. Need the Rams to get banished. I think that it's pretty clear cut here. And, I mean, the Rams are not being the easy out that I was expecting this season. I really, really am waiting for them to revert back to form. It's just not happening. Even when they lose, they're competitive. Speaking of being competitive when you lose, we also had this result, although this is a good one. Cardinals basically buried at this point, but they continue to play well in pretty much every game. You can't, the Cardinals don't look that bad. And I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know how they're doing it. I'm going to make some videos later this week talking about it. We got the result we wanted here, however. The Bengals were able to pull away and win, but the Cardinals not looking that bad. Unfortunately, we then had to deal with this one, which, I mean, at least it was over pretty quickly. I will say this. It's not all bad for Dallas to lose and go to 3-2, because that's obviously a team that's going to be hot to trot for a wild card spot. And at this point, even though we kind of assume they're going to be a wild card team because they're good most weeks, they're capable of playing so well. They have such a good defense. Their offense is, well, I can't say anything good about them right now. You would expect that Cowboys team to be a wild card, but honestly, with their schedule, it's fair to wonder if they could end up sliding to the point where maybe they end up a 10-win team, and 10 wins is not enough to get in. So if Dallas doesn't make the postseason, that's one more spot that's open. And even if they do, and the Seahawks have a better record than the Cowboys, which is becoming more and more feasible with every game that Dallas loses, especially with how they looked last night, then every little bit helps, right? Like, who would you rather play in the first round? Would you rather play a team like the Niners or Eagles, or would you rather play a team like the Saints or Lions? So if it comes to that, that's great. But right now, we got to think about the division. And right now, the Niners look pretty unstoppable. This was one of their big challenge games. This was one of the games where we would find out about them. And if we did indeed find out about them, it's pretty obvious what we found out. Obviously, it's impossible for any NFL team to play at this high of a level for 18 weeks. So there is going to, at some point, be some kind of a drop-off. But there's really nothing that they're not doing. Every element of football, they're killing it right now. And you look at it right now. You watch these first 5 games. If you're being objective, you're wondering, like, what's it going to take? How do you beat this team? They can do everything. Everything they do is perfect. And you just wonder, what's it going to take for them to lose? Or even have a really close game. I know they played the Rams kind of close, but by the end of that game, they had a comfortable lead. So, not the worst result ever, but not the desirable one, of course. There is some silver linings here, but we weren't able to end the week on a good note. Now, we do get the opportunity to have one more thing go in our favor if the Raiders win tonight. We'll talk about that maybe tonight on Twitch. But to answer the original question, did the Seattle Seahawks win the bye week? I guess the answer is yes and no in equal measures. See you guys later.